So, Trinity, a very nice looking woman from one of my favourite film series, and very athletic. I do wonder how many of the stunts she did. And I must confess that I actually prefer Neo, as he looks in the second two films, and Merovingian. I like his shirts. I am a little confused though about why I'm preaching about Trinity. That is the subject for today, isn't it? No? You're supposed to answer that. But anyway, so the Trinity. That does make more sense. But I'm going to see if I can think of something to say about that. Now, like a lot of these subjects, we could spend a very long time talking about it. But here's the Roman Catholic belief, or dogma, in the words of the Athanasian Creed. The Father is God, the Son is God, and the Holy Spirit is God, and yet there are not three gods, but one God. In this Trinity of persons, the Son is begotten of the Father by an eternal generation, and the Holy Spirit proceeds by an eternal procession from the Father and the Son. Yet, notwithstanding this difference as to origin, the persons are co-eternal and co-equal. All alive are uncreated and omnipotent. Clear as mud, right? That's it. That's the end. Everybody understands that, don't they? Well, the Anglican Church breaks it down in this way. The Trinity states what Christians believe God is like and who they are. Plays a central part in Christians' worship of a non-objectifiable and incomprehensible God. Emphasizes that God is different, very different from human beings. Reflects the way Christians believe God encounters them. Is a central element of Christian identity. Teaches Christians vital truths about relationship and community. Reveals that God can only be seen as a spiritual experience whose mystery inspires awe and cannot be understood logically. Now, I do believe that most of that is true. I'm not sure about the central element of Christian identity though. I'm a member of a group on Facebook called the Progressive Christian Alliance Discussion Group. And somewhat helpfully for me, there was a question about this very statement just a few days ago. You can't be a Christian without Trinity belief, right? And it sparked a big conversation. Opinions ranged from the fundamental to the liberal, passing through esoteric and arcane on the way. One person said, the Trinity is how thought materializes into this world and its effects. It has been proven true by physics, chemistry, and psychology. I am confused why the concept is so difficult for progressive Christians to understand. I asked for links to essays and studies I could read, but was given the name of two books, which I haven't managed to look at yet. But actually, that sounds like an interesting way to think of the Trinity. The vast majority, though, were of a similar opinion to myself, and this is what my comment said. Personally, I believe that the Trinity is simply one, purely human way of describing that which cannot be fully described. It is neither incorrect nor correct. Historically, the idea that God was one, yet more than one, was contemplated by early Christians towards the end of the first century as they tried to understand the relationship between God and Jesus, to reconcile the Jewish monotheism with the belief that Jesus was more than human. It took some time, though, before that view was written into church dogma. In the 4th century, Arianism, nothing to do with racism and Nazis, taught that the Father, or Creator, existed prior to the Son, who was not by nature God, but rather a changeable creature, who was granted the dignity of becoming Son of God. The Nicene Creed, which some of you will know, was written by the First Council of Nicaea in the year 325 and said little about the Holy Spirit. It was only later that it was expanded by the Council of Constantinople in 381 to say that the Holy Spirit should be worshipped with the Father and the Son, and suggested that they were all consubstantial. Lots of words, big words, or of the same substance. So as you can see, the idea of God, the parent, God the Son, and God the Spirit, was not one that came directly from Jesus and his disciples. In fact, Jesus didn't directly call himself God, and only indirectly does so in the Gospel of John, which we heard earlier, a gospel that was written after the others. Of course, we don't have the literal moment-by-moment records of Jesus' life, nor of every word he said, so we can only work with what we have. And unfortunately, those records don't always agree. What the Bible does do is describe God and describe Jesus in many different ways. And I do think that describing God as a Trinity is one way of doing that is useful to us, as long as we don't forget that it is just a human description of something that is very definitely not human. We have no way of understanding fully that which is beyond us, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, in every way. In one of the readings today, Jesus said, "I have spoken to you of earthly things, and you do not believe. How then will you believe if I speak of heavenly things?" Heavenly things are those matters that are literally out of this world. In my younger days, I built computers and created networks. 20 years later, and most people understand the workings of a computer, but still not all do. Imagine then that I tried to explain how a computer worked to a worm. Do you think that worm would understand? 2,000 years after Christ was born, we understand so much more about this world than we did then. And yet, in 2012, it was reported that scientists only understood 4% about the universe. Now, I don't know how that figure was reached, but what I do know is that we have a long way to go yet before we know everything there is to know about this place we call home. Why then would we, or could we, be arrogant enough to say that we fully understand God? I don't know if Jesus truly was divine. I won't know until I meet him face to face. I don't know if he's part of God, or just more completely in touch with God than I could ever hope to be. What I do know is that he taught a way of living which I believe in. He advocated a relationship with the Creator which I crave and long for. And he spoke of a spirit which can fill you with the strength and love that we need to serve God and our neighbours. And that Trinity is enough for me. I was going to leave you with another picture which I created a few years ago, which has disappeared. But it depicts a globe with a man carrying a box, and Jesus standing on a cloud next to an angel, and God standing on a cloud next to an angel. And God says to the angel, "I don't know how they think I'm going to fit in that. Look at my hips." Thank you.